Yeah, I want to start real quick. Councilman Fink's not here with us today. Spoke to him yesterday. He did suffer a small stroke after his return from Honduras on a work trip. He's doing fine. He's an ex-Marine, so I think he just wants to walk it off and be fine with it. He does have some vision issues. He said it just gives him headaches right now, so he'll probably be in and out of council meetings for the next little bit, but should be back with us pretty soon. Like I said, he's doing great. He just wanted me to pass that along because he is still daily engaged in everything we're doing. So if you see him or talk to Sam, just make sure you pass on your concerns. He's done a lot for the city, and we appreciate his continuing commitment. So I appreciate it.
All right. Mr. Rich?
Here.
Dr. Houghton?
Here.
Mr. Farley?
Here.
Green?
Here.
Dr. Holliday?
Here.
Mayor Giselle?
Here.
You have a quorum. So, thank you everyone for coming. It's encouraging to see some folks in the room who are new, some folks who've been following along kind of since the beginning, 2021, 2022-ish. So thank you all for staying engaged. It's just a general reminder that today's a work session for council and our professional facilitators. So we're not taking public comments or questions from the audience today, and we have been accepting those and will continue to accept those through email for this particular meeting. And just a quick summary of where we are on our STR study process. This is our third meeting for our STR review. The first meeting gave a short history of STR regulations on Folly Beach from 2010-ish to now. The second meeting reviewed public comment, where we kind of aggregated all of the comments we got before the CAT passed, after the CAT passed, when this was announced, all the way through today, and compiled those into common groupings. And so the third meeting, this is today, is we're going to work with council to kind of define how we're going to advertise for the STR study. What's going to be in an RFP? What are we going to ask the consultants to look at? And what measurements we're going to ask them to use to evaluate those things. That's a large conversation with a lot of moving pieces, so we have turned to outside professionals who are here from the Riley Center to guide that conversation. And that's all I'll have to say probably for a while. So Kendra and Bob and Heather, I'd like to turn it over to you guys to introduce yourselves and get started.
Good morning. My name is Kendra Stewart. I am a professor at the College of Charleston as well as director of the Riley Center. I'm going to have my colleagues introduce themselves real quickly.
Hey everybody, I'm Heather Zeidler. I'm the operations manager at the Riley Center and also an MPA student at the College of Charleston.
Good morning, I'm Bob O'Neill. I'm executive in residence at the Riley Center, and great to be here.
And just to give you a quick little overview, the Riley Center is a public service organization or applied research institute at the College of Charleston, where we use experts to work with local governments and nonprofits around the state. This year we've served over 100 local governments around South Carolina, so we're very excited to be in Folly Beach, and we appreciate this opportunity to help guide you with this discussion today. So we will go ahead and get started unless anyone has questions about any of that so far. As Aaron already mentioned, your staff, along with the mayor, took all of the public comments that had been heard, and I know at one of the last meetings they shared with you a summary of those. We'll talk about those in just a moment, but we just wanted to make sure we had some consensus around what our goal today is. And as you can see, it's stated on the screen, to reach consensus on the scope and priorities of an RFP for an objective, independent review of Folly Beach's short-term rental ordinance. And so our goal is to just guide you in this process. So does anyone have anything to add, or ready to go with this? All right, then we'll go ahead and jump in. So the next slide are the summary points that your folks who've been listening to all the public comment feel like all of the public comments fell under. That were, or at least I would say the overwhelming majority of public comments fell under. There were certainly some that had a few supporters here and there, but I will start here and see if you all have things to add.
So again, just to reiterate what we're trying to do this morning is identify the areas that you want the consultant to study. So we're not going into the debate of each of one of those. What we're trying to do is do we have the right issues for the consultant to review? And then the second piece is, do we have the right metrics? Do we have the right information and data to evaluate whether those proposals are something that the council wants to consider? So again, what we did, I'll just go through these very quickly. The 6 that are on there, as Kendra indicated, are the ones that seem to have the most interest in review. So it starts with leave it, the STR ordinance as it is, allow 72-day rentals, adjust the number of capped short-term rental licenses, eliminate the cap for properties in commercial district, eliminate the cap for properties in multi-unit buildings, and allow allowances for replacement structures from an existing house. So our first question for you is, are those the right 6? So is there any clarification you want for each one of those? Is there something that's left off that you want to include?
So where did these come from?
That was all generated from the comments we've gotten along the.
Okay,
the
so
last
this
2
is
meetings.
citizen comments, requests for consideration, but not necessarily, it's not an all-inclusive document at this point. That's my.
No, this is designed basically just to give us a basis for to start the conversation.
Start the conversation. Yeah, again, I mean, it's obviously a good start, and I've certainly read the citizen comments, but I want to make sure that, this is not an all-inclusive list. Obviously, we're looking at a myriad of things, and from the perspective of what's necessary for the citizens in the city, I'm going to request that, obviously, that we dive deeper than just those things. I don't know if it's relevant or not, but I certainly want to make sure that we throw everything at this that we can, because we have a short time span, we better get this done.
Well, I guess the next question would be, what would you like to add to that list?
Well, okay, so I have a 19-page document that goes through all the things that I believe we need to consider, and I will give that to you guys in the interest of time. I'm not going to take the next 2 hours and go through all these things. Actually, Aaron, you want to give this to them there? And you can give these to the council members. That I'd like for the consideration to be given as far as the design, but again, it's not just representing these pieces here. It does include other variables that I think we need to study, obviously independently, so thank you for that.
Well, I think today's the day, so if you need to say some specifics, go ahead and do it, because what we're trying to avoid is a RFP that's so expansive that it really doesn't get us to the answers. What we're trying to do now is identify the major things that the community's brought forward that says these are the issues we think that we should take another look at. So if you've got some specifics, that would be super helpful.
So maybe I'm confused. I thought it was an impact study, but I don't see, and I'm gonna reference Greg Marshall's email, impact on real estate prices, impact on city resources, impact on tax revenue, quality of life metrics.
Yeah, those are the metrics. These are the questions. What you're describing are the metrics, how we measure the impacts of each one of these questions.
So, Mr. Mayor, maybe if I go to that second,
Sure.
that second slide, just to give you some context. So let's just make an assumption for a moment, you choose these 6. Then the next question is, what are you gonna measure to determine the impact of those 6 for you as a policy? So maybe we could switch to this.
I got you. I see where you're going. Then the one thing that I would like to add to that I didn't see in there is, we were one of the first to do this in the area. Since then, a lot of other municipalities have done different projects. And I'm particularly interested in North Charleston with their zoning districts and a number of licenses per district. It seems like it would hit a lot of the things that the citizens that we've gotten feedback on. We could do more spot zoning, places in the front we could rent, keep it limited in residential. I would like some sort of comparison to what other local municipalities have done. And I know they're constantly tinkering, but how does that relate to what we have? Is that maybe a more viable option? We've recently found out we may have to redo some things with our ordinance. So if we're gonna have to redo it and kind of I don't know, what do you recalibrate it? I'm trying to think of what I can say that I can say in public. we have to recalibrate it. Let's look at some different options and see maybe there's something better out there that people have figured out since we did this originally. Without undermining the ancillary, you see what I'm saying?
So the question, I guess, would be, how can we, is there a path forward for Folly to address this through zoning, I guess, or zoning? And then that could be
Kind of.
open-ended, so that then.
Kind of, it just how does it compare to what we have now? Like, I think when you look at the North Charleston on the surface, it looks great, we can hit a lot of our goals, but maybe they're having some detrimental impacts that we don't know about. So kind of compare what local municipalities are doing versus us in these same metrics.
So one of the things you could do is on that first list is have one of the sort of in between the issues and the metrics is to have a comparison done initially is one of the first steps in the consultant study. Is to say, is there anything we should learn from?
Evaluate other solutions. and
Yes. Is there anything we can learn from the surrounding community?
So just to go back to process, could you do the original list, please?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the things that I've been asked, since I came on council and this began, is transfer of the business license.
Okay.
Assuming all these stay. The other thing is what was said earlier by Mr. Rich, is basically best practices. So maybe this isn't a question specifically here, but my assumption is that, and I'm thrilled, Riley Center, in fact, I cannot tell you, hello, I had breakfast at the Lost Dog years ago with you,
Yep.
so thank you.
It's nice to see.
Best practices. So the question about that is, have you worked with other municipalities, discussed the best practices of STRs? And that will be part of your findings.
Well, we're not gonna do the study. We're just helping you put the RFP.
Right, but you do have a high level of expertise, and I'm clear about that. So, I'm very clear. So it's just a direct question as far as, because that level of expertise is going to guide you when we go out to bid.
Yes, we have worked with a handful of municipalities around South Carolina as well as in other states. Some folks on our team with short-term rentals. It was mostly around things like looking at their current market and helping understand where short-term rentals were located and those types of things. So yes, the answer to your question, thank you for asking, is we have done work with other communities on short-term rental.
And not to put you on the spot, but each one is unique as well. So that was the other aspect of the study, is some of it is comparative, some of it is very unique to Folly.
And to coattail what they're saying, I think it's important that I say apples to apples, looking at other coastal cities that are similar to us within South Carolina or the region, so that compare, I think what we're comparing it to in some of the data studies is equal, so.
Yeah. And those are things that in the RFP, you will be asking the consultant to deliver to you. Is if you want to do comparisons, if you want to do, I think best practices is probably a little bit more difficult, but leading practices anyway, would be things that you would ask of them. And then the consultant will probably come to you when you've made the selection and do the methodology. And
Okay.
you can then go through which communities make sense for you to compare to. And
So that's exactly how we sort of put this document together, and, this is over a period of time, pre and post cap, but the pieces that, go to the next slide again. So in tandem with what was just discussed, Mr. Mayor, the goal here in my document is the measurement factors, okay, the things that need to be considered as part of the measurement, obviously not the end result, but things such as property values, marketability, loss of rental income, buyer demand, the composition, homeowner income, the financial resilience, household impact, long-term rentals over year housing. It's just a whole litany of things that, the local business revenue, the STR service economy, complaints, violations, all these things we've broken down to say, here are the things that we have concerns about. Let's measure these pieces. We've detailed the pieces out. That's just all I'm asking for consideration in terms of each of those. And then the last, I think, is something that we've been talking a lot about, and that is brand equity of this island in the terms of the destination competitiveness, the ability for Folly Beach to continue to be that, you know, obviously the public beats, that does allow for folks to look at it from the standpoint of being able to use their property appropriately. However, it also includes things such as infrastructure, parking, environmental resilience, and things of that nature. So I'm not gonna go through all this because it's all detailed in here, but the measurement factors that are associated with all these things you've got up here, that's what I'd like for you to consider adding to that RFP, that we can, you know, ferret out from the consultant, so to speak.
Yeah, so this slide's basically a very like 30,000 foot view.
Exactly.
So all that stuff you're talking about kind of go into some of these metrics that we've got up on the screen.
So, yeah, so part of what you would do is the consultant, at least these basic measures would need to be included. And then there would be a set of work tasks in the methodology that the consultant would use.
Yeah.
And you would go into the, what I would call the granular measures that are gonna be picked up. And that would be something you would query the consultant once you
Right.
selected the consultant.
Is it appropriate to say what we don't want as well? Okay, so on the last page, there's a description of things that I don't think we should accept. Things we should not accept, and I'll just give you an example. A simple before and after comparison. That's just definitely not gonna get us information we need, or even, for that matter, you know, there's a litany of things here, but island-wide median property values without a parcel level analysis, okay? There are things that got to be considered, and this is not the way to do it. I wanna make sure that we steer away from, let's just say, arbitrary discussions around things that don't prevent or don't provide data, that is, that can really help us, you know, ferret out where we need to go as a council in making decisions.
And I think going to your point, those will be defined at the next phase when we have direct conversations with the consultants.
Okay.
And I'll probably get myself in trouble here, but to some extent, some of that may be what I would call phase two. where
You mean
you'll-
after the study's completed?
Phase two of the study. You may
Okay.
do a second phase that says, here's the 5 deep questions we want that you couldn't get at all the data in the first round. So, I mean, there's, for instance, the brand question. People who do brand work are different than the ones that are gonna do some of this work. So if that's a big issue based on what you want, you may have phase two.
I think it would be helpful if we're gonna talk about phase 1, phase 2, and
I knew I was
an
gonna
item
get in
that we
trouble.
need to know what the timeline is. So
No,
what-
I think we talked about the phasing. I think if we can answer those questions that we showed on that first slide and have a matrix that basically scores each one of those questions based on all those criteria,
Mhm.
then I think we'll have a pretty good idea of what the impacts are.
I would like, because I think we all agreed on this, I would like to see the comparison to local municipalities added to that list.
Okay?
No, I think that's great. Even
Okay,
if
I
that's
just
a
wanna make sure
separate
it's stated,
section.
it's going to be on that list, because I think it really, it can answer a lot of these other questions and some of that, you know, give us a good, you know, head start.
And obviously, there's some forensics you would be doing, I assume, we would be asking for in comparison to other municipalities, even in the nation, outside local, that have experienced this, and whatever the downstream residue associated with the cap is, so that we can look at, you know, what the potential, let's say, prospective impact might be as well.
First of all, you're not in trouble. Second of all, second of all, I think we all aspire to have best practices and to learn from one another.
Thank you.
So third of all, I think we just need to be clear, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, since honestly, this has been unfolding since, you know, the beginning of my terms on council, is the timeline then, okay? So the timeline, you know, publicly stating is, in order to be part of the business license process, I'm sure you already know that there's a really focused timeline, and it's my understanding it's November.
Anything that needs to be adopted needs to be adopted in the December meeting.
Okay, so whatever happens, the adoption is December, 2 readings, then we go and have fun if there's changes. So I think that is an element, however you want to look at it. If it is a phased-in approach, which makes logical sense, then the priorities, how things unfold, so on and so on and so forth. You know, I don't think we want to spend our whole careers at this, but I do think it needs to be very intentional and very specific to meet deadlines, respond, and keep moving forward.
So to kind of come back to the first step of that is to getting some consensus today on some specific items that we'd like to look at. And using Dr. Holliday's list on page 14, I think you guys all have copies. A good place to start would be reference Dr. Holliday's proposal to this list, see what's not on there, and see what you guys think about it. So scenario A, current ordinance, that's on the list. Scenario B, eliminate the cap. That's, eliminate the cap overall is not on that list.
It could be in the adjust though, I mean, could it be
Adjust,
adjust
yeah,
to zero?
yeah, adjust, you guys like to leave that described as adjust or eliminate,
I
maybe?
think the word adjust is, or adjust, eliminate, slash, back to back is fine.
Okay.
I don't know if we can.
Scenario C, licensing follow property sales, so this is not on the list. So, how do you guys feel about adding, as a possible study issue, the allowances for license to transfer upon sale?
I mean, if it's a,
I'm fine with including that.
I think some of the other metrics that we're gonna measure are gonna help us make that decision. Like, cause if you look at the next scenario, purchasers may apply but no automatic transfer. So obviously, we can't put all these on the list. Some of these are gonna be decisions to make after we get the study back. And I think that falls into that category, more so.
But the license transfer is not, you're right, Mr. Mayor, it's not on that list. That should be added, I'm sorry.
No, that was
It should be
fine.
added.
Yeah. All right, 72 night licenses, that's there.
Which one do we put up there? Do we put licenses follow the property upon sale, or purchasers may apply
I
for
think
automatic transfer?
we
Just the
put
general.
The general.
allowing license transfer, and then we evaluate, let the consultant tell us the different ways
Yeah.
we could do that and
Right.
what those different things we do. 72 night licenses, that's on the list. List disappeared. Geographic or property type exemptions, that's tied to a couple, things there on the list, the commercial districts, eliminate the cap. So we could even combine those two and just put consider, geographic exemptions or use exemptions, replacement and resilience protections. That kind of ties into, replacement structure licensing. Inheritance and hardship rules, that was on the longer list presented at the last meeting, that's not on the shorter list from today. So, would you guys like to consider revising our inheritance and hardship exemptions as part of this process and studying those, finding out from a consultant how we could do it and what the impacts would be of that?
At least when you're looking at like the other municipalities, what have they done? I think we should make sure, I don't think that we've, from what I understand and the emails I've gotten, like we're almost there, we haven't done, there's some new wording we can add just to make it, we kind of left it very restrictive with the inheritance especially. Let's see what the other municipalities do, but it should be looked at. I just don't think it doesn't need to be a, number one priority, but it should be looked at along with the comparing to local municipalities.
I mean, the
What they're
study
doing with
question would be like,
inheritance.
what would the impacts be from an expanding inheritance or whatever?
Yeah, something along those lines, just to see, because I've had people, like, we're almost there, but like, we can't get everything right, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
You want to go down
Yeah,
this one?
yeah, I just wanna, cause, for this part of the discussion, we're asking you guys what to add to this list, so then you can discuss and rate and weight this list.
But, so then, just to be clear, there was a geographic location one that you had mentioned
Yeah.
that was after the license?
Yeah, and I think that would just combine, eliminate the cap for commercial districts and multi-unit buildings, all the multi-unit buildings.
That could just all go into that.
Yeah.
So eliminate those two and just put something more broad
Mhm.
Well,
around,
yes.
geographic or property
Oh, yeah.
exemption.
Overlay solution.
The overlay.
Doing overlay districts,
Scenario I is enforcement-based alternative, which is retain or loosen the cap. So I guess that would actually probably fall under, an option under adjusting the number of cap licenses. rather
Could you
than-
say that again, Mr. Pope?
Scenario I on page 14.
Yeah.
15.
Yeah, it starts on page 14, enforcement-based alternative, and then over on page 15, the description is to retain or loosen the cap while targeting increased enforcement. So I think that broadly falls under adjusting the number of cap licenses. Scenario J here, transferable or market-based permits. I do think that one is, that could be under license transfer. It's just the concept of
Yeah.
creating a different mechanism of transferring licenses.
I like the idea of permit auctions, that's
So-
funny.
So those are the scenarios that Dr. Holliday submitted compared to that list. Does anyone else on council have anything, any idea, change, public comment that they feel like has come up that is not represented by the items on this list?
Well, the only thing that's not here is eliminate the cap.
Well, that was adjusted number
What number is that?
3.
Three.
You could
Up,
adjust it
down.
to 0.
And those two could be so different, and this is for you to decide, those two could be such different concepts that you want eliminate as a standalone option and adjust to cover the market base that you know, so.
Or maybe just use the words adjust/eliminate and to decide what you study.
Well, I think if you're gonna study one, you need to study all. Because you have to look at, all right, this is the impact
Right.
of elimination versus
Okay.
reducing.
You could put leave/adjust on number 1, and get rid of number 3.
Yeah, that's
All
fine.
right.
I mean, you're either gonna leave it or you're gonna adjust it up or down.
Leave/adjust.
So you can eliminate number 3 and just put leave/adjust on number 1. And just take out one of the, just simplify it.
All right, so those were the original 6, plus the ones added from a review of Dr. Holliday's suggestions. Does any other council person have a suggestion for a amendment type?
The one, and I don't know if this is on the next one as far as parameters or not, but status of long-term rentals. Because one of the things that we were hoping with this it would up the long-term rental market availability. And we want to know how that part of this ordinance has gone. Is there anything we can do in that realm to encourage the long-term, if you can't get short-term, to encourage long-term rentals? That was a big part. There's a lot of long-term renters on the island, and we're losing them almost daily.
So the number
It's
of
on
long-term
metrics.
rentals is one
Is
of
it on
the
the
metrics.
metrics?
Mhm. So
Okay.
before we get into the metrics, we just want to step back, not how we measure these things, which we'll talk about next, but which other broad categories of changes to the ordinance do you guys feel we should task the consultants with considering? Anything not captured by this list?
I think that covers most everything.
I'd like to add just to, I think scenario F that, Dr. Holiday brought up. Instead of looking at these as like black and white and you answer that question, like for instance, allow licenses, where is it, geographic or property type exemptions. There's a lot of spaces on a continuum there. And like almost like ask like a what if, like what if we made it just oceanfront properties? Or what if we made it all commercial? Or what if we changed the commercial area? Or what if we included multi-unit, but what if we said multi-units had to be 6 or more? So even like to allow 72-day rentals for all properties, what if we limited that? What if we put a time constraint on that? What if we, what are some of the other ones up there? Allowed license transfers. Maybe what if we allowed license transfers to people that have been here a decade to reward people that have been long-term residents here? So
Wouldn't that go to that next conversation?
So, yeah, so-
Get information about that.
So you're asking the consultant to look at these particular elements and issues, and then what you will get back is sort of that decision tree you just went
yeah, like a continuum
through.
of,
Is, well, what happens if we do this?
Yes.
We ask them then to evaluate what's the long-term impact if we do any of these variations within these categories.
I just wouldn't want to settle for the easy answer of if you do this, then that. Because I'd want somebody to go a little bit farther and say,
Yeah.
well, what if we changed it a little bit to this? And then give us the decision tree or the continuum
Yeah.
that would allow us to pick somewhere along the
Once you
line.
pick the consultant, you'll go through the methodology of the questions that they're gonna raise and study and the metrics they're gonna use. And then you're gonna get a set of decisions that are gonna come from this study that you've gotta make, right? And you will
Right.
go through that.
But I think
I
going
don't want it to be just the base question that we see here.
when we get back to the consultants after we give out the RFP, then we can go into these nuanced questions that are like, I want a little bit more detail on that. Show us 8 scenarios or whatever that could,
As long as the RFP
Yeah.
says
Yeah.
that, and we don't get later on, well, you only paid me to answer
Yeah.
these study proposals.
I think what everybody's trying to say is we're tired of the easy answers, the short ones, the opinions. We want hard factual data and an array of possibilities.
Yeah, but I think the challenge you're gonna get, and I'm gonna be, get myself
You're not gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, is you're gonna have to manage the scope of this around the questions that you think are the most germane to the decisions you gotta make. In the time frame, you've gotta make it so you can impact it, so it's in the sequence that you gotta do, so.
So I would also imagine though, when we go out to bid and we have all these questions, so on and so forth, I mean, that's also our time to process with the individuals to
Yes.
specify
Absolutely.
exactly what our time frame is,
Yep.
what's outcome driven, what can be later on. So that's also part of the RFP process.
It is.
And
It's gotta
seeking-
be in the RFP.
uh,
Once
so
the
the
RFP goes out.
The
Yeah.
general concepts are going to go out there. What I'm saying is, before they're selected, there is that dialogue to get that specific expert that understands the complexity of the overall goal. So that's going to be very important, selecting that expert.
And things we don't know as well, and questions we haven't asked, and to Bill's point, I mean, again, we may not see the forest for the trees right now, but it may be clearer once the data comes out, so.
Well, there's no time constraints on getting it right.
I
As
agree
long as
with
we're
that.
working and getting hard information, we're getting it right. I mean, if it doesn't happen in the next 3 months, it's fine. We want to get the right information and make the right decision.
But I do agree with what you said about giving us options, making some nuanced choices, and not just being, this is it, this is what, yes or no. We need to have a little bit more clarity on that.
And maybe just a step back, maybe we should have started with the process. We're thinking of the top line task for the consultant. Evaluate X, Y, Z, be prepared to give us 4 options for each. You guys will get a handful of RFPs back to review. Each one of the people who respond, well, in order for me to give you 5 options for your things, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and this. And you're gonna find the ones whose approach you like the best. And once we select them, they're gonna come in and you're gonna say, okay, we hired you to give us 5 options for item X. These are the 5 options. So you'll get more granular as you go. So today we aren't necessarily trying to get to the final bid discussions with the selected vendor. These are all good conversations to have.
I think one thing that we might want to add is, and I think it would go under study proposed, is how does our system measure up? As far as, are we doing the right things? Is there anything we can do to streamline from a municipal perspective with our, like, the rental registrations and the septic and all the things, and the inspections? Are we on the right track with that? Do we have the right things filed? Is our process good? Because we've heard mixed reviews about that as well. And I don't see anything involving our processes up there.
I think comparisons to other local municipalities.
Well,
That
as long as as long as that's covered in there, that's one thing that, we've all talked about it. So we know some of the things that we need to streamline. I think now's a good opportunity with our current state to do that.
The only other topic that I had that I'd like to ask my colleagues is, we consistently get questions about enforcement. So where does that lie in this current list? Do we need to highlight it, whatnot? But
It's funny, because that was one of the things that I was hitting at, was the enforcement, all of it, enforcement part of it.
So I actually read your mind.
Yeah, you did.
Whoa, we're in trouble.
I am.
Can you articulate that as a question?
So that really is one of the either understood, misunderstood, whatnot part of this. That's one of my lessons learned, is the specific enforcement and that whole process. So I just don't know where that fits, how we frame it, where we want to go with that.
And that could also be a separate conversation, because it is a little bit different than just cap as,
And do you mean, is the current ordinance being enforced as written? Do you mean enforcement's not being publicized? Do you mean enforcement's overzealous? That's a very broad.
That's why I put it, I specifically mean about the enforcement process, the turnaround, the strike. I just mean looking specifically at, I think there was 300, a recent document, we've done enforcement. Okay, are there patterns, are there trends, are there those types of things? I mean, could be a study on its own. That's why I don't want it to be missed.
And do you mean that as a metric against which these things are being measured? Or
I do.
Okay.
I do.
so how would 72-day rentals impact enforcement? what I'm going at.
Correct.
Okay.
So it
Why
would
don't
be.
we add that as a metric as opposed to a study? Because I think if we get too broad, the scope of this is just
Yep,
gonna
I think
grow.
it's a metric.
Okay.
I would also recommend, maybe looking at alternatives to the current methodology. And maybe that, encompasses a forensic, or a 360 on the whole enforcement piece, but maybe looking at what are the alternative models as opposed to what we're currently using right now.
Well, that's why I think it is important, it's a metric.
I
that goes-
agree with you.
That goes across the board.
I agree.
Okay.
God,
If you
but
go
it's-
to the
So
metrics slide.
just a suggestion, just to try to,
Yeah.
the suggestion on the enforcement is to do that after you've made some of the other decisions. So your question on enforcement is on the system you wanna try to put in place.
Or potentially the future system,
Exactly.
or, so I do think somewhere it couldn't be lost, whether it be a metric or whatever it is. The timing of it could be, part of the consultant's job.
I mean, you don't wanna model enforcement on something you're not gonna implement, that's my.
No, I don't think we intend to do that.
So we do have like municipal costs as a metric. So underneath that, if we expand enforcement, for example, that would impact
That could
costs.
fit there, that could fit there, among the other lists.
So, any other, before we dive deep into the metrics, any other study proposals?
Municipal cost is what was just, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
remove enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay,
think
sorry,
it
we just wanna make
just
sure we're
falls
capturing.
under that.
You're right,
So in addition to all the other things, trash, whatnot.
yeah.
All right, so let's go back to the list of the issues to be studied here and see if does that work for everyone?
From a 30,000 foot view.
Would you mind going, I'm good. Can we see the metrics again?
Sure.
I think that's a good list of metrics. That covers most of the emails that I've seen in one way, shape, or form, and everything that we've been talking about.
And the consultant may suggest some that they've used in other experiences when you get to that point, but this is the one you can at least articulate in the RFP.
And I just envision some kind of matrix that they just score each one of the questions based on those metrics.
Okay, back to the first slides.
So we'll go backwards.
Well, we gotta, let's sign off on the.
All right, what's this
Sorry.
QR code? If you keep passing this QR code.
She was gonna have
Right.
to vote.
So does, any additions to the metrics?
Or you need,
Any questions for clarification?
Yes, sir.
Everybody good?
everybody good with that?
I was satisfied when Mr. Pope said there'd be like 4 options for each of the.
Okay, all right.
And just quickly, working from Dr. Holliday's proposal, you guys all have it, just to make sure there's not one on here that doesn't fall under that group that you guys like to consider. Kind of starting on page 4, we have property values, marketability, and loss of rental. I think that would generally fall under housing market prices, but you guys feel like that's broad enough or too broad? I'm just gonna kind of go through them, and then you guys can discuss. Buyer demand and composition, I think probably falls under housing market. Homeowner income, financial resilience and household effects. This is related to rental income, number of long-term rentals or year-round housing, local business revenue, employment, and STR service economy. I think that's kind of, we've just got local business revenue there.
Why are we categorizing it just from tourism instead of just all municipal revenue as well?
I think she just put that on there.
Well, and part of it is understanding that.
Yeah, I understand, but it's not just tourism.
Well, I think, Dr. Holliday, what that meant to convey is, as we look at that, to the extent possible, we are trying to isolate the effects of the STR cap and changes to the STR cap, for example, on municipal revenue. To the extent that it's possible, are the identified changes in municipal revenue related to proposed changes to the rental ordinance or something else?
But it's
So
not
that's-
exclusive just to tourism.
Right, what that phrase from tourism could be rewritten as attributable to the STR cap.
Attributable to STR cap.
Yeah.
Well, because we have to measure the impact.
Right.
Yeah,
So whatever we want to say,
Yeah, and so, just recognizing the concept that there may be changes to all of these things that are happening completely independent of whatever we do to the cap.
But the reason why we did this, just so that I'm clear, is to focus on that because of the financial impact, which then would lead to another question about other impacts in our budget, frankly. So focusing on that to begin with makes sense to me.
But it differentiates, macroeconomic things as opposed to attributable to the cap.
To the extent possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, anything you wanna, Aaron, is there any more?
I think the only other thing that I would have to ask you, Mr. Pope, as far as we're actually generating a lot of this data. So when you reflect either on the list that we began with or the one in addition to Dr. Holliday's, being data-driven, do you see anything that might cause us, I don't know, a challenge? I don't know, maybe that's not a fair question, but I just want to make sure before we close out that, because we'll be using our data, that'll help us.
We will be asking
So-
consultants where they got their, where
No,
their
I-
sources are.
Yeah, no, I understand that, that's a different question, it's more,
Are you asking of the staff?
no,
Turnaround time.
I'm asking from a perspective of us generating that data and providing that data for an RFP or whatnot. Are there areas that we need to, I don't know, but I just wanna make sure, data in, data out. And maybe that's something to reflect on.
Yes, there's definitely, if you look through, for example, Dr. Holliday's proposal, he's got some very in-depth things that the city does not capture, has never captured, will not have. It may be available from a northern source. So recognizing throughout that the city has some data and some data we don't.
Yep, we haven't collected, we don't have, whatever.
Yeah, we haven't, like, for example, just as a purely hypothetical information, the city cannot tell you in 2015 how many of the global STR licenses were owned by 6% properties versus 4% properties and what percentage of each that was.
Perfect
We just
example.
don't have it.
Perfect.
We can send Charleston County assessor data, the number of licenses, the address to someone else and they can get it. But recognizing that the city does not collect every type of data conceivably possible related to this study, we just don't have it.
And the
But
reason.
without a, more in-depth of what's needed, I can't tell you, but.
And the reason why I ask that is that also puts things in a box and allows us to say this is what we have, or we access other data, whether it be Charleston County or anything else. So that will be part of this process, and I think that's
Well,
great.
I think we could
think
identify
that's great.
what we are able to provide, and it would be incumbent on the consultant to say, yeah, I can find the rest of this.
Yeah, I think that's.
That's
important.
my assumption, and then that's
That's the-
part of the RFP.
Very
Or
important.
they'll tell you. can't.
No way,
Yeah.
we're high in the sky.
Yeah, they're gonna come back to us and say, we propose to study this, use these data sets, and we're gonna be able to say, we have those, those are here, those don't exist.
Thank you,
And that will help you guys make a decision on who to use and what they do.
perfect.
Okay, anything else on this particular slide? All right, let's go back to the first slide. I love that.
I'm very comfortable with this.
It's really only two
Back-
slides.
we're-
Yeah.
We're quicker now.
Two key slides.
Okay, are you comfortable with this outlining the basic study proposals? I need a nod of the head here. There we go, okay.
No good?
Yes, good,
I'm
good.
fine.
Good.
All right. Anything else?
Just the matrix again, sorry.
Go back to the.
Yep, just the
Metrics?
She wasn't, yeah, pretty sure.
metrics, not the matrix, the metrics.
There will be a matrix.
That was exactly,
A matrix of the
I was just having that
matrix.
conversation in my head.
Okay? Bear, you good?
So it sounds like we have consensus around the questions and the metric,
Correct.
correct? All right. So now we just write it up.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Holliday. This is very thorough, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of that language in the RFP.
I want to thank you for facilitating our discussion today. Anybody have any other questions before we?
No, sir.
About this,
Everybody good?
about this.
Yeah. Life, Jeff. We're all good?
Yep, yep. So we, so moved.